What's good? As you know, I am a huge horror fan. Not paranormal horror. Paranormal. Did I say that right? Paranormal horror. Tongue twister. But killer horror, psychological horror, thriller horror. I love it. And what do you love more than the kills? I love the kills. So today we got 10 insane, emphasize, insane kills from recent horror movies. These kills are insane. You ready? You ready?
Fans generally love nothing more than a creatively gory death scene that lodges itself firmly in their memory forevermore. A kill that's either deeply unsettling on a gut level or just ludicrously entertainingly over the top. And so, poring over the most recent horror movies, both big and small, these are the most gloriously unhinged and brilliantly executed kills you absolutely need to see.
Bro, I know how to beat almost a good percent of horror movies, cause there's always a sign in the beginning. Like, what's some good signs? First of all, why are you going camping in the woods? Like, that right there is just a number one. Like, for Friday the 13th, why are you even going camping? Like, stuff like that. Just chainsaw massacre. Like, what are you doing? Why are you going to abandoned houses?
And so with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 insane kills from recent horror movies.
Things like that, man.
Number 10. Set on fire and shot repeatedly. Scream.
Scream.
The fifth Scream film boasts
Oh
a
my
number
goodness.
of memorably gnarly deaths, but none more so than the fate that befalls one of its two Ghostface killers, Amber in the film's climax. The fate that befalls one of its two
from the boys.
Amber in the film's climax. During a tussle with Sydney and Gale, Amber gets riddled with bullets by Gale, causing her to fall backwards onto a lit stove. To make matters worse, because Amber was hit with a bottle of hand sanitizer moments earlier, her entire upper torso immediately goes up in flames. Though Amber's charred body collapses to the floor, seemingly dead, she returns for one last scare after the other killer, Richie, has been dealt with.
Why are they doing
Amber,
that?
now sporting a severely burned, half-melted head, runs towards the survivors with a knife before she's finally put down for good by Tara. Even with the absolutely
What are you doing if you see that running
that
towards
have
you?
been meted out to Ghostface killers in the past, this was certainly up there with the best of them. Plus, considering that Amber actress Mikey Madison was previously set aflame in the climax of Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in America, doing the same again here feels like a sly nod to that unforgettable kill. Number 9. Head run over by a car. X.
Whoa.
Ty West's recent hit indie horror X also touts its fair share of creatively effed up deaths, though none more than the satisfyingly brutal demise of horny geriatric murderer Pearl in the film's finale. The end of the movie leaves only Maxine facing off against Pearl, and when Pearl tries to shoot Maxine with her shotgun, she misses, and the force knocks her to the ground where she breaks her hip. And it's this injury, hilariously enough, that seals Pearl's fate, as Maxine then commandeers her truck and without hesitating reverses it over Pearl's skull, all while she continues to berate Maxine. West spares no detail as we see Pearl's head satisfyingly pop in a gory mess.
What'd she do?
Maxine mocks Pearl and drives back over what remains of her head before disappearing into the night.
She had to double
Number
back.
8. Head destroyed by a bread slicer. Fear Street,
A
Part
bread
1,
slicer?
1994. There's a long-standing tradition of horror movies adapting everyday objects for creative death scenes, and the first entry into last summer's
Put me on one of the teams that
delivered in that
create the
in the movie's third
scenes.
act, poor Kate is overpowered by the shady
I have a broad imagination.
who does
I
away
got
with
plenty
her
of
by
kills.
shoving her face first into a cake and then shoving her head first through an industrial bread slicer. While many presumed that the headstrong Kate would survive
what is
the
a
movie,
bread slicer?
director Lee Janiak impressively toyed with audiences' expectations, lingering on the nauseating shot of Kate's head being slowly forced through the slicer, pulping her head into gory chunks in the process. The technical execution is fantastic, and actress Julia Raywolf does a great job selling the terror of the situation with her horrifyingly blood-curdling screams. Number 7. Testicles bitten off, shot in the head. Fresh. Fresh is one of the year's most devilishly entertaining horror films, a tricky black comedy that satirizes the modern dating scene as Noah comes to realize that her dream boyfriend Steve is actually a human butcher who carves meat from women and sells it at a high price. Steve, real name Brendan, certainly gets his comeuppance in the film's finale though, when Noah appears to initiate oral sex with him, but instead bites off his testicles. A sans-balls Brendan then pursues Noah into the woods outside his lush home, where she manages to overpower him and shoot him in the head, splattering his brains all over the place. In a film entirely concerned with a man exerting his will over women's bodies, this was quite the cathartic payoff. Number 6. Decapitated by a chainsaw. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Netflix's new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie ends with sisters Leela and Melody appearing to have defeated Leatherface, attacking the killer with his own chainsaw and leaving him unconscious in a pool of water. But as Leela and Melody get ready to drive off to safety, Leatherface returns, smashing one of the car's windows and
you know what I never understood? How come in like horror movies, like people like freeze up, like they see the killer and then they trip and they don't even attempt to get back up. They just are like crawling backwards until they get caught. Like, if you trip, get up. Whoa. I just did something there. That's like a new motivational quote or something. If you trip, get up. Put that in your yearbook.
Out before mercilessly cutting her head off with his chainsaw, all while a traumatized Leela looks on in horror. Though this ending certainly proved divisive with audiences, the commitment to such nasty violence is laudable in its own way. Namely that director David Blue Garcia refuses to cut away as Melody's head is parted from her body, complete with impressively disgusting visual effects. Say what you will about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it certainly didn't skimp on the gore.
I didn't watch
Number
it.
5.
I was planning on it, but
Choose or Die.
Just didn't.
Netflix's Choose or Die may have ultimately been a pretty unremarkable horror film, but it does get a few points for a number of creatively WTF death scenes.
I watched the video on this.
Villain Hal's demise at the hands of protagonist Kayla, in order to triumph over the cursed video game Cursor, a game which causes her to experience deadly horrors in real life. Kayla must face off against the final boss, Hal, another player who made copies of the game in order to prevent his own death. The big twist of this final confrontation, though, is that any physical damage incurred by either Kayla or Hal is instead inflicted upon the other person. And so a completely unhinged fight takes place in which they both hurt themselves in order to harm the other. This culminates in Hal slitting his own throat in an attempt to kill Kayla, causing her to fall into Hal's swimming pool while carrying a heavy statue. And so before Hal can do anything else, water begins to pour from his nose and mouth as he drowns despite not being submerged in a body of water. In a film that so often deigns to chintzy techno horror tropes, this was actually a pretty ingenious kill. Number 4. Shot by a man-ram hybrid.
Man-ram hybrid.
No matter how many horror movies you've seen in your life, you've never seen anything quite like that.
What the heck is that?
This movie Icelandic horror follows a childless couple, Ingvar and Maria, who find that one of their sheep has given birth to a human-sheep hybrid. Ingvar and Maria consequently raise the miracle baby, Ada, as their own child. Yet when Ada's biological sheep mother protests, Maria makes the fateful decision to kill the mother and bury her. This backfires tragically in the film's finale when Ada's biological father, a man-ram hybrid, turns up at their remote home. The father kills the family's dog and then shoots Ingvar with a rifle before taking custody of Ada and disappearing into the hills. The movie ends with a traumatized Maria lamenting not only the loss of her husband but also her surrogate son. Considering the artful restraint deployed throughout Lamb, the presence of an actual gun-toting humanoid man-ram thing in its final moments was a legitimate, brilliantly executed shock. Number 3. Sliced in half with a chainsaw mid-coitus. Studio 666.
Hey!
Studio 666 stars the Foo Fighters as fictionalized versions of themselves, whose attempts to overcome writer's block and complete their new album are stymied when frontman Dave Grohl becomes possessed by a demonic presence. Grohl ends up turning murderous on his own bandmates, with the most off-the-wall death being afforded to Foo Fighters keyboardist Rami Jaffee and Samantha, the neighbor he ends up hooking up with. While the pair are getting frisky, Grohl sneaks underneath Rami's bed and revs up his chainsaw, which he shoves through the bed, causing it to effortlessly cut through Samantha and Rami's heads, killing them instantly. But Grohl doesn't stop there. He continues to slice the chainsaw along their entire bodies, making Rami's 2 severed halves collapse on opposite sides of the bed in the middle of Samantha's remains. Nobody would call this death scene realistic, but for a low-budget horror flick, the practical effects sure were fun. Number 2. Everyone in the Jail, Malignant. James Wan sounds malignant, it's all over the place quality-wise, but it certainly delivers more than its fair share of inspired insanity during that climax. When Madison is arrested on suspicion of kidnapping, we learn that the movie's killer, Gabriel, is actually the remnants of her parasitic twin brother, who exists as a cancer-like formation attached to her brain within her skull. Yep. Gabriel has been hijacking Madison's body to carry out the killings, and because he resides on the back of her head, he operates Madison's body backwards, hence why Gabriel's movements look so odd and unnatural. While Madison is in lockup, she's taunted by the various degenerates inside, causing Gabriel to emerge from the back of Madison's skull, whereby he slaughters basically everyone in the disgusting cell. The notable kills include ripping a chunk out of a woman's neck, slashing another's face, impaling one through the chest with his bare hand, crushing someone's skull with his foot, snapping a neck, and then most hilarious saving the worst for the ringleader of the group by gouging her eyes out and using her as a human shield against a cop who unloads a barrage of bullets into her. That's hardly the end of it either. Gabriel then uses bladed weapons to cut through a bunch of armed cops, because why the hell not? Love it or hate it, this entire sequence was absolutely wild. Number 1. Skull split open while giving birth. Titan.
Skull split open while giving birth.
Titan has the unique distinction of being the only body horror film to win the Cannes Film Festival's prestigious Palme d'Or, and is centered around Alexia, a serial killer who ends up having sex with a car and becoming pregnant with its spawn. The long and short of the story is that even mean, Alexia goes into labor and gives birth, the trauma of which causes the titanium side of her skull, surgically implanted due
what drugs was the producer on?
To split open, killing her on her final birthing.
Whoever made this,
the baby, a hybrid of human flesh and titanium, is then cared for by Alexia's surrogate father, Vincent. Dying in childbirth is one thing, but dying in childbirth at the hands of a metal-infused baby you can see with a motor vehicle of all things is something else entirely. And yet, despite how absurd Titan might sound on paper, it's a surprisingly sweet and affecting film about parenthood trauma and loss at its core. And that concludes our list. If you can think of any that we missed, then do...
Dang. Yeah, those were insane. That was crazy. But, you know, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna catch y'all later.